So thank you so much to the lovely Daniel Bateman, actor extraordinaire, who is joining me for an interview today. So I'm going to let Daniel introduce himself to you all.
Hey everyone, as she said, my name is Daniel Bateman. I live in Los Angeles, California, but I am originally from Kansas City, Missouri. So I was born in more of a Midwestern, smaller town environment, and I always had these big dreams to be an actor. I would watch movies, TV shows, and just think, oh, I could do that. That seems so fun to do, but never really knowing how to do it. So I got involved in theater. When I was a kid, I started singing. I was very loud as a child, so my parents were like, "What do we do with that?" And so they put me into like singing lessons to kind of, at least if I'm going to be loud, might as well make it sound great. And I started doing that and did national tours. And then when I became a little bit older, I went to New York City, studied with the American Musical and Dramatic Academy, and did Wicked and several Broadway musicals. So I have quite a background in theater, which I think really has opened myself up to the world of verticals, because everything is so over the top and crazy and heightened. So it's been very fun.
When you were a kid, was there like a certain movie or role that was the one that made you go, "This is what I want to do"?
Well, I think it was watching, I don't know if it was a particular role, but it was watching The Wizard of Oz, honestly, because I was from, Kansas. So
Yeah.
seeing this magical world that you could transport yourself to, I wanted to find my equivalent of that.
Yeah.
And it's Los Angeles, which is not quite the same as the Emerald City, but for now it's fine.
So was that quite a moment then when you sort of were in musical theatre and you got to be in Wicked? Was that a bit of a
Yeah,
goal realised?
I mean, it's when once you've done Broadway, it's fun because it's really the Super Bowl of theater, and it always feels like, where do you go from there and where do you go from there? And finally getting to do that, starting even as early as a teenager doing Broadway, it's just been such a foundation for my career. It's been such a great time, and meeting so many wonderful people, I think, is the biggest thing that I love about theater, is like that it's this team effort together to keep that machine going every single night.
So you did that. What was then the transition that took you from the East Coast to the West Coast?
Well, I always wanted to pursue film and TV a lot more. And I was doing Broadway, I was doing a lot of theater, and I was like, how am I ever going to enter that world if I don't just go for it? So I started doing some short films, things like that in New York. And then I made the leap to Los Angeles. I like ripped the Band-Aid off and I said, I'm just going to go and I'm going to make it happen. And so I went to LA. It was great. And then I booked this movie called Sex Love Venice, which completely opened up that world to me. And it was great. I shot it, and then there was this time while everything was editing, and so I said, "Well, I'm going to explore more and more." And I had heard about vertical dramas, and before I had just seen like little clips of them, but I was like, I'm finally going to dive into it. And a friend of mine that was casting from something else, she said, "Can you start, doing this small role in a vertical that I need to fill, and just see if you kind of like the environment." And I did, and it was fun. It was great.
So I'm definitely going to come back to Sex, Love and Venice. Don't worry.
Yes.
But so what had you heard? What were kind of the stories that you heard about verticals? What's sort of the first words that you hear when you first encounter them in LA?
Well, the first words that I heard for an actor was "Don't do them." To be honest, it
Yeah.
was that you will be typecast. You will only be able to work within that, specific environment. That casting doesn't like to see it. I had heard all of those things, but I also was very aware that I think the best thing that you can do as an actor is to be busy, and to keep yourself on set, and it's like a workout, just keeping that muscle going. In the habit of memorizing every day, and just feeling things every day, and working as a team. So I was like, screw that. I'm just going to go and do it. And it's been great. And I've met all kinds of people. So everyone who told me that before,
Do you think attitudes are changing at all? Because that's something I'm trying to do have just kind of changed the attitude to it and sort of.
I think it changes. I think it's changed a little bit with just like certain platforms, maybe. I mean, not all the verticals, quality wise, are the same. You know, they don't all look
Yeah.
the same. The script types are not all the same. Um, I think the ones that are a little bit more grounded, like where they let you not be as over the top, I think that's what is fine. I think it's when you start to get into the villain roles and the things that are like really kind of like a this caricature, that they don't like as much. So
Okay.
it's easier to, I think, not get into that world and to be seen that way if you're like the lead in them, because if you're the lead, then you're always a little more grounded in these, I feel like.
Yeah, that's really true. Actually, they're the more grounded characters, and it's the extremes
Yeah.
around the side. Yeah.
Yeah.
So your first one was "Dear Husband, Delete My Number," which
Hmm.
is I do really love that one. How did you find the experience of that on set? Sort of, any
So
memories from it of what your impressions were?
yeah, yeah. Well, I didn't, going into it, I was like, but luckily I trusted my friend who was in casting, and I just said, I'm gonna go for it, and I went, and it was kind of one of those situations where I think they had cast, someone else, and I just needed someone to come in last minute, and I was like, I'm just gonna go do my due diligence. It always looks good to casting to be available and make things happen. So I went and I did it, and it was, yeah, I mean, it was great. Everyone was very kind to me. I enjoyed the environment. I enjoyed like how quickly it moves from, one scene to the next. And yeah, it just made me want to explore more. And I was like, okay, but if I'm going to do these, I have a lot of other things going on right now. I was like, I need to lead them because I don't, it's like I want to have meteor roles and more to dive into. And so then I started pursuing it on a deeper level on my own, and just booking from one to the next, and started as the antagonist in several of them, and then that led to being the lead in several, and now it's kind of like once you get that momentum going in the vertical industry, it does seem like there's kind of this train, there's this motion that once you're kind of visible in some of them, that it's a little easier to keep that going. So
Yeah.
it's been fun.
Having done the variety that you've done, obviously you've done film, you've done TV, you've done Broadway. Like technically, how different is it working on a vertical? Kind of,
Vertical is so different from from film
yeah.
and from Broadway. All of it, just it's a very specific format. The framing is so tight. So for a regular film, I'm moving and I'm making all of that motion, and for vertical, it's like every time you film, it's like a little awkward. Like you need to stand a little closer to someone than you would in real life, or if you're hitting someone, like start really close to their face rather than like back here, and you have to be very aware of your framing all the time, and it's a lot of stop and start because like with verticals, it's like there's these little slow motion shots when you're going in for a kiss, or fun things like that, which are all done in editing, but we
Yeah.
still have to like talk to the directors, and maybe we don't understand like why they're having us pause sometimes, because it's not natural for an actor in a scene, but
Yeah.
it's how they're going to edit it. So it is hard because sometimes it's like you just want to do the scene all the way through, but they're thinking of their editing while they're doing it, even before you're like, they're already thinking of what it's going to look like, whereas you as an actor are just trying to do the scene and be truthful, and for verticals you can't always be truthful.
But you give it a good shot.
Yeah, yeah, yes,
So how did you find? Obviously, one of your main roles was the lead in Taming Billionaire Tycoon, I think it is, rather than
yeah,
Mogul.
hmm,
But very important, you got to play a billionaire, which is always a. I always
yeah,
think it's like check on your vertical to-do list.
yeah. Now I've
Um,
been a billionaire like 5 times at this point, so yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So how
uh,
did you find that? Because that's really fun. I think it's really quite broad comedy and it's quite enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's I had seen the casting breakdown for it, and I loved that it was a comedy. Like so many of these are heavy, and it's a werewolf, it's a it's a billionaire thing where it's like there's an affair happening or there's something just very intense. And what I loved about this was that it was just so lighthearted, and like a rom-com, and you don't always get to do that. And with my theater background and everything, I knew that I could bring kind of a comedic timing and an energy to it that I think was needed. I think a lot of the times, verticals, sometimes will just cast like, not to put anyone on the spot, but sometimes it's like, sometimes they'll cast models who aren't necessarily like actors. And I think that works for some of the more dramatic ones. But when it's something that is, that's a comedy and you have to have all that timing and expression and everything, I knew that it was kind of an outlet for me to shine and come in and do that. And so, I had submitted, and then I got a call from casting, and then I did my my callback Zoom meeting. I actually was in Barcelona, Spain at the time for the film festival for Sex Love Venice, which I know we'll talk about. And so, I was getting ready for my my movie, international premiere out there, and then I got the call. So it was super fun.
So, out of interest, because you've played some sort of around the side characters, and you've not played main characters. Kind of, what's the difference in the workload? Kind of, how does that vary for you on set?
I mean, it's definitely a lot more draining to be, the lead characters, of course, because you're pretty constant in these, and you don't really have a lot of time to memorize. A lot of the time, they change these scenes very last minute, so you kind of just have to go with it and make the most of it. I think when you do some of the smaller roles, it's kind of a little easier because you kind of have an idea, like from the call sheet, how long you're gonna be there. Whereas like if you're the lead, like you're always assuming like I'm there the full 12 hours. Whereas if you're a smaller role, you can look at it and be like, okay, they're shooting scene 12 and scene 15 today. Then looks like I'll probably be done before lunch. So I think you have like a better grasp of your schedule a little bit when you're not the lead. But to be honest, sometimes when you're not the lead, it's a little more fun to do them. They just don't pay nearly as much as there's a huge wage gap, and that's a problem in the industry that I think needs to be addressed at some point. It's like because if you're playing like a lead antagonist a lot, that's a big role that I don't think there should be like this huge gap between that and then the male lead. And I think sometimes they do that because they just bring on these influencers, or they think they need somebody with a bunch of followers or whatever. And I don't think it really translates the way that they always think that it does. So yeah, I mean that's definitely something to explore.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Because the other thing I wanted to ask you about as well was, again, having had the theatre background, and you were saying about the people you met there, and I think one of the things that a lot of us who watch the verticals enjoy is you get to know faces and you get to know people who will pop up in different things. And I think once you've become a big fan, you're almost more excited about seeing what other people would say, or background players are like, like Mark Shinnery, who's just legendary. It's Mark again, as whatever his role is playing.
Yeah.
Is there that aspect of where I think it's almost a bit like a theatre troupe, in that you're kind of you encounter similar people again, and crews and people you're working with?
You do, yeah. I mean, it's a pretty small, even though it's pretty constant, it is like a small community of people that like lead these and that are bigger roles in these, and you do see a lot of the same people. So it is fun. There is kind of a familiar aspect, a family aspect sometimes, and you get close because you work with these people, under all kinds of conditions, weather, temperatures, everything is changing. It's never the same day, and going through, especially like when you're doing like intimacy scenes and things like that too, where there's that romance, it really, I think, takes that trust, like, with your scene partner, and just to be confident and to just go with it and kind of have a laugh that you're going through this journey together. So luckily I've done that with several people that I really get along well with.
And are you provided with intimacy coordinators?
Most of the time, not every single set does. Yeah, which is always interesting. I know some people prefer to have intimacy coordinators. Some actually think it makes them think about it more. So I don't know that there's like a right answer with that, but I think it's important to check in with the actors before 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 they've even signed it, and just know exactly like what they're wanting for the intimacy scenes, just so that I think everyone's on the same page from the beginning. I think is super helpful.
The other thing I really want to ask you about is the costumes as well.
Oh yeah.
I get slightly obsessed because like, vertical costumes, obviously, some of the suits can be quite loud, shall we say? With
Yeah.
certain styling, I'm quite taken with the brooch pins with the
Yes.
sort of hanging
Yes.
brooches, and I've got slightly over obsessed with the silk scarves. Kind
Yep.
of, what's your experience of what you've worn? Kind of, do you get any input in it, or is it like I'm just going
Oh,
what they give?
yeah, no, they always want you to bring what you have first. Like that's always kind of the
Yeah.
first thing, especially for men. I mean, like the women, I find that they like generally have more like prepared like from the beginning.
Mm.
Whereas the men, I think it's like, oh, do you have a suit? Do you have and then it's like you do you have a dress shirt? Do you have dress pants? Like they're kind of already just having you bring that. And I think they do some for the women too, but it is definitely with the men. It's like I have noticed that if I bring like three or four suits, they're more than likely going to use those suits because they fit me. They know already that it's going to be fine. And actually, on Taming the Billionaire Tycoon, I liked the suits because they were different colors and they all fit me so well. They were custom that I just bought them at the end. I just said, "Hey, can I buy these?" I obviously, do a lot of these. I lead a lot of these. They're always wanting a billionaire suit. So can I just buy these and make it easy? And so I did. And so now I've kind of got like my four or five, go-to suits that I will bring unless they need something really different. And sometimes they do have them prepared and something that they want, but I always bring them just in case, and more often than not, they use them in some way.
I love that. So you've actually got like a billionaire part of your wardrobe now.
Yep, I do. Yeah, I absolutely
It's so
do.
awesome. Oh, with the verticals, kind of, what roles would you like to do? Sort of, what would you like to do going forward with them?
I would like to experiment more with like, I would like to see them do something musical. I would love to have like a vertical that can really highlight singing and
Mm.
dancing and things like that as
Yeah.
well. I think that's a missed market that I think, even from a financial standpoint, I think could be really beneficial for them because then it's music downloads and it's all kinds of other things too. And then, on TikTok, things go viral and people would be singing along and doing things. So I would really like to kind of expand what we see in verticals. And, the billionaires are fine, the werewolves are fine. But if the vertical format is here to stay, what else can we do with it? And I would also love to see some thrillers. There's one that I just worked on recently with Joseph Anthony Francis. He wrote it, and it's called The Billionaire in the Butler's Bedroom, also known as Deception. Um, and that is like a thriller. There's a murder, there's strangling, there's all of those aspects of it. And he wrote that in such a fun, engaging way where there's a cliffhanger at the end of every little scene, which is so important for verticals. So I would love to see some thrillers, some scary ones, some just something different than what we already have out there. I would love to tap into some of those verticals.
The fans really want the musical verticals, by the way. I'm putting it together with my YouTube things. I'm putting together the cast and the band. I'm
Yeah.
like finding out, right, you can dance, you can sing. You obviously, I think, need the leading role with your background. So yeah, we need to make it happen. Would
It
there
would
be
be so.
challenges, do you think, with the camera being so like making the movement work on camera?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be the easiest, but it's something that, as long as they just made the songs, and everything kind of catered to that framing, I think it would be fine. It just would look different. It would be more jump cuts,
Yeah.
someone dancing here and someone dancing here, and then mending it all together. But it's definitely possible, and I think it would be a huge reward, a huge payoff because it is so different.
I think you're right as well. That the possibility for going viral on TikTok would be
Yeah.
high with
Yeah,
that. So yeah.
yeah. Just singing
Mm.
these emotions and being in these scenarios with people, and I think it could be really great.
It's really interesting as well. You mentioned about the thrillers because, yeah, I'm aware of. We need to get it released, don't we? The Butler in the Bedroom. I can't wait for that to come out because it looks
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I've had quite a lot of people mention horror verticals to me as well, which does make sense because, again, the closeness.
Yeah.
And actually, I found there are quite a lot of men who watch verticals. It's not as well publicised, but
I've heard
they do
that.
watch
Yeah.
them. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's sort of the wife. Either the wife starts and then they get sucked in, or it's watching them on their own. So,
Yeah.
do you meet people day to day who aren't in that world who watch verticals, or is it still quite people outside the acting world don't really know what they are? What's your experience with that?
I think a lot of people, it's weird because I think a lot of people don't, they think they don't know what they are, but they actually do watch them. I think sometimes people just see these, they'll see like one episode, pop up on TikTok, that not like the full series, it'll be copied or something. And then they're like, oh no, I've seen some of those. Like once you show them, they're like, oh, I have watched those. Those are fun. But maybe they just didn't go to the actual streaming site and watch the full series. So
Yeah.
I think it's a lot more common than people think. Had seen them pop up even before I did verticals and not really fully knowing what they were, but I was like, oh, I've seen those little soapy,
Yeah.
clips. So it is interesting kind of who has watched it, but I think anyone who is on social media often has seen them at this point. If you're on Instagram, if you're on TikTok, some friend, someone in your feed, some ad. I know I was just watching TV late last night, and I saw some commercials pop up for different streaming platforms for the verticals, talking about those series. So I think it is really expanding into a lot more territories.
So and it's worldwide because obviously I've just done votes for the awards, and there were like 16,000 votes from all around the world, and it was.
Yeah.
We're getting to the stage where I could tick off most nations, which was making me very happy. I'm particularly proud of the vote from Antarctica, which I like to imagine as a penguin. So
Yeah, that's so fun.
So we've obviously talked about verticals, but you've mentioned you've had this amazing movie out, Love, Sex, Venice, which has got like beautiful reviews. If you go and read the reviews, they're astonishing. Would you like to talk a little bit more about that, how it came about, how you found the experience, what it's about, just whatever you want to say, really?
Yeah, so Sex Love Venice was there was a big international casting where they had not found their two leads, and I saw the posting and I read the description and I was like, I have to do this. This just sounds so unique and special, and it's a feature film, and as an actor, that's what we always strive for. And if you're not someone who's famous per se, it is really hard to be given the opportunity to do features. So I submitted my audition tape, just like everyone else. I was like, okay, whatever happens, happens. But then I was persistent. After I sent it, I was like, I'm going to follow up the next day. And I did. And then I started messaging with the director back and forth because he said, I really like your tape and I keep going back to it. And so then we just met for coffee because he said, I just want to talk to you in person. That he had seen that I could act. He saw that. He wasn't worried about that. He just wanted to catch my essence. Because in many ways, this I basically am playing a version of him. This is something that happened in his real life. Steve Balderson is the director and writer. Yeah. And basically he went to Venice and found he was going through a hard time, going through a bad breakup, kind of having a sex addiction and having these meaningless, interactions with people. And then he goes and he meets this man named Marco, who teaches him what tantric sex is, conscious sex, really finding connection again. And it's such a beautiful script. And I loved doing something that was so tender, and beautiful, like a lot of the times I think in the beginning when I was about to be cast for it, there were several people that were like, well, Daniel, if there's a lot of sex scenes in it, whatever, should you really do it? And I was nervous about that at first, but Steve made me feel so comfortable because he was like, this is necessary in the script. Like, this is what it is. It wasn't just a sex scene just for the sake of having a sex scene. It was tearful meaningful, compassionate um, sexuality. And that's what it is it's really, yes, it's about, two men who fall in love, but it's really a universal love story. Like you could just as easily replace Marco and make it Michelle. You know what I mean? And it could be a man
Yeah.
and a woman, and it would be the same thing. And I think that was what was really beautiful about it, is even though it was sort of this gay, boy love story, that it was really so much more. And it's been the biggest thing that I've ever done in my life. It's opened up so many doors. I've, traveled the world doing film festivals. We're now in select theaters. So I was just in Fort Lauderdale doing Q&As. So I'm meeting people from around the world while it's showing in theaters here in the US. We're on Amazon Prime and Apple TV and most like cable networks. There's just a lot of outlets for it. So it's been really eye-opening and really beautiful just on how big this has become, and just seeing it continue to grow is really, really special.
What sort of response are you getting from audiences?
Oh my gosh, the responses have been so amazing. Like, especially when I've been in person and people will just come up and give me this hug after with like tears in their eyes and just say thank you, like, that everything you were feeling I was feeling during that. And as an actor, I think that's what you want to do. You want to take people on this journey, and there's a lot of scenes in there where, if Marco, the other character, he's talking a lot, and I'm having to just actively listen, and so I have to tell the entire story just with a tight frame of just what's happening with my eyes, and the only way to do that convincingly was to authentically feel that and to let myself experience it. And I did. I was there, and I found myself really, falling in many ways, because I was having this bit of a romance. Yes, it's for a movie, but I was kissing someone in the rain in Venice. You know what I mean? Like it's these dreamlike scenarios that you don't normally have, and it really activated a lot within me.
So, yeah, what is it like filming in Venice? I have to ask the question.
Filming in Venice is crazy because it is beautiful, but it's a very moody city. It's there's a lot of rain. The water rises a lot. It's busy. It's a tourist city. So it was really amazing that we were able to get away with shooting in a lot of the locations that we did. And the only way that we got to do that was just to be quick. So a lot of what you see is like my second take or something, because we didn't
Wow.
have time. So I had to just be prepared and do it,
Yeah.
because there's 10 boats in the canals going by, or there's a bunch of families, and kids screaming or something. So it was beautiful and magical, but filming there is definitely not the easiest, because there's just so much happening.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is obviously there's just the tourists, just the amount of people you're trying to manage around you for then trying to film those outside scenes.
Yeah, and you're
It's just,
trying to just
yeah.
be so engaged. And we shot it in November, like the end of 2023, so it was cold, and so you're sitting outside, and you're having these romantic scenes, and you're like, we have these thick coats on, and then as soon as they would say action, we would then take that off and then do the scene and then put it on again. And there's a really like family aspect with this small crew that we had, just on taking care of each other through all of that, and finding the humor in it sometimes too was special. Like just going in for a kiss, and then all of a sudden this huge gust of wind comes, and your hair's like all over the place. Just some of those like precious moments that you couldn't even plan are used in the movie, because it's like it's just so perfect. It's so real and raw. And when we do go on dates with people, like silly things do happen. We do spill our tea because we're nervous, or whatever that is. So I think really tapping into that was really fun and beautiful. And it was also so different because I'm not wearing makeup in the entire thing. In verticals, it's like there's a way that they want you to look like all the time. It's very presentational. And with this movie, it was really about being real and relatable and authentic. And so there are little like shaving cuts and things like that that normally would be covered. They're really celebrated in this movie because it's really just about just being you, and I'm proud of that in some way. Even though it's like when I first saw it, I was like, oh no, like you see like my shaving cut or whatever, but then you realize you're like, oh, but that's the character, that's Michael. So it's pretty interesting.
What's it like? Because obviously you said you filmed that in, was it November 2023?
Yes.
And obviously you all go away and then you're doing verticals and presumably the cast are doing all their own projects. And then now you said you've been doing the festival circuit. What is it like when you sort of, you're intensely close, obviously doing sort of some really intimate scenes, then you go away and then you come back again? So what's that? How does that work? What does that feel like?
I mean, it's really special. It's like a family reunion every time you're able to see some of these people. And we don't always, a lot of the time I have just been at some of these with like Steve, my, the director and producer, or Joe Stanhope, who is our producer in the UK. She was in Barcelona. And then Alex Ananasso, who plays Marco, he lives in Barcelona. So I saw him there, and when I went to that film festival, that was his first time seeing the movie at all, when I had already seen it like 4 or 5 times at that point. So being able to sit there with him and share that for his first time seeing it was really special and emotional, and beautiful, because as an actor, when you do these, you don't ever really know how they're going to turn out. You come in, you show up, you do the scene, you connect. Then it's out of your hands. How they edit it, what they do with it, what the footage looks like, we don't really know. And so there's a scariness, but with this one I wasn't. Like I knew that like everyone really wanted it to be great, and it was a team effort, and it's just this beautiful feature film. And Hanuman Brown Eagle, who is our cinematographer, he did such a great job. I mean, that guy is walking backwards with, the huge camera, like on the bridges of Venice, and capturing us in these moments. And it's just amazing he didn't fall into the canals. I mean, it's like, it's pretty wild. But he deserves a lot of credit too.
The light that I've seen and the bits that I've seen are phenomenal. It just, and the way that like your face lights up, it's amazing.
Yeah,
It's really beautiful to look at.
yeah.
So talking about that, sort of going forward, how is it that when you've done something that amazing and that rewarding, is there like a come down? Is there
Yeah.
a bit of a,
Oh,
and
yes.
how do you manage that? Because that must be quite intense to deal with emotionally.
Yeah, I mean, it started like right when I was on my flight back from Venice into the US. It was like that feeling of like, oh, I'm so proud. I'm so glad I had this amazing experience. But it's like, oh, when am I going to have this again? Because it's such a rare, beautiful thing to, lead a film internationally and go and do that. And we connected so well, that coming off of it was hard. And I think there was a period of, several weeks of kind of a depressive state where you're just like, you're longing for that, you're missing that. And because I poured so much into it authentically, it is almost like going through a breakup, in many ways, because you're around someone and this group of people every minute of every day, pretty much, in these amazing, scenarios, and then you're alone and back to square one. And so it does take kind of an emotional resilience. And I think for me, it was just getting busy again that got me out of that, was saying, okay, I'm not dead, like I did that. That's over, but it's not over, because even though I'm done shooting it, like here we are a year later, and it's just birthing out into the world. It's just reaching so many new people, and every time someone watches it, that's a new experience. So it's out there forever. It will never die. It's documented now, and I think that's what I find comfort in.
So, what have you got coming up then that you're excited about? What do you want to
Oh
share?
gosh, I have a lot going on.
Yeah.
So I have a horror film called Cow, that is going to come out at the end of May. So as soon as I get more specific details, I'll definitely be sharing that. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm really excited because I've always wanted to do horror. So that's going to be really, really fun. I have another vertical called Desperate Housewife. They change the titles on these all the time, so I think that's
Yeah.
what makes it hard to talk about future ones
Yeah.
sometimes, because you like say one and then it's like some crazy random title that,
Yeah.
because they don't even, here's the thing, they don't they don't always tell us when it comes out. We have to just figure it out on our own. It's not like they email
Mm.
everyone and say, hey, this vertical's now released, go watch it. We kind of just on our own have to figure it out. Um, and so yeah, so I have that one. I have another one called Love is a Battlefield. Um, and then I
I
have
really want that to be set to the Pat Benatar song now.
yeah, yeah, I know. And then I have let's see what else. I just signed with a great agency, so I'm really excited about that. So it's opened up
Yeah,
some new doors from all this
yeah.
momentum. And just the press has been crazy. Like I've been doing nonstop press with, major magazines for the movie too. And so that's been really cool to talk with people around the world and see all that press happening.
Have you got any ambitions of doing any more? As in, would you be interested in writing or directing or producing, or are you like, actually, my vibe is acting and that's where I want to stay?
I mean, acting is really where I want to stay. I don't know. I mean, I've thought about it. I did like produce and direct, help direct the billionaire in the butler in the billionaire's bedroom. I did
Mm.
Deception. I did do that one with Joseph Anthony Francis, so that was fun to kind of be on that side of it too.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it, and then I was in it as well. Um, but it is funny because it's hard when you're directing to kind of take yourself out of it because when you're an actor, you're so used to like putting yourself into it that
Mm.
I don't know that I would ever be able to like just be a producer or just be a director because I'd be like, I want to jump in there. I want to do it. I think it would be like putting candy over a baby. It's like when you enjoy acting, you always want to do it. So I would produce and direct if it was something that I was maybe writing or that it was some
Mm.
project that I really wanted to do, like a musical, vertical or something that was so unique. Then yes, absolutely, because whatever gets it made, I would love to do things like that.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so helpful. Um, can I go back just to the very beginning before we end? Because I got really excited, the teenager in me, at seeing that you were in 17 again.
Yeah,
Because that was a good movie, and I just want to know what you. It says you're a dancer, so I just need to know what you did in that. If you could
yeah,
just
you
share.
won't recognize me. I was like a teenager,
Yeah.
very different. I had this like big curly hair, and it was just yeah. That was funny because I had done a lot of musicals, like I said, and the casting call came out for 17 again at the time, and they were doing a like a dance call where you would
Mm.
go in and show up with all these other people. And I went and I did the dance round, and then they called the next day and said, "Yeah, we like you. We want to book you." And so I went and I shot for like I think it was like 3 or 4 days of the dance sequences that were like these dreams of Zac Efron, that were happening, where there's these little dance bits, and it was fun. It was fun to see it, and it was fun to do it. And I used to dance a lot too in like some of the like Nickelodeon, things like that too. Like they used to have a show called Dance on Sunset, which was like this kids show where everyone's just like screaming and dancing and every morning. And yeah, so I used to do a lot of that too. But I'm really more of a singer than dancer. I just got booked to do that, which was so
Yeah.
so great.
So I have to ask now. Then you've set that up. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Believe it or not, my favorite, it's My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion. And the reason is I love to take a song that is traditionally like female and then flip the script and do a different version of it because it surprises people every time and it's familiar and they know it. But even though they know it, they haven't heard it that way before. And that's really fun for me to do.
I love it. Okay, that's the exclusive I need next time. I need the video of you singing that.
Maybe in our vertical musical, we'll find something
Yeah.
like "My Heart Will Go On." I don't know, without copyright, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I just want to say a huge, huge thank you for your time and just sharing so much about your experience. It's really, really appreciated.
And thank you for all that you do. Thank you for supporting all of the actors, and it's such an important thing. I do want to say that like it goes a long way because we're not always credited in these, like these platforms. I do think it's a problem. They will post clips on TikTok or everything like that, and our social media handles aren't anywhere or things. So it is weird sometimes because it's like you'll do like a vertical, you'll lead something and it'll be like, 2 million views or whatever, and it's like got all that traction and that's all great, but it doesn't always like translate like to us because we're not anywhere. They don't know who we are, and so it's really nice when we can be acknowledged and respected and treated as people. So I just wanted to thank you for doing that because it does go a long way.
That's my pleasure, and also reassuring that it's not too terrifying that I spend far too long going through people's Instagram accounts trying to spot people and work out who.
You're having
It's like,
fun.
they've obviously worked with those people then because they're all now following. So
I think
yeah.
it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful that you're so, passionate about it, and that you have found something that's like an escapism for you, and something that is that's a joy, and something that you genuinely, I think like helping people, and that's great.
Thank you so much.